Hey everybody, and welcome back to Fix My Coaster Layout. This is a collaboration between myself and Andrew at MickanMan's RCT station, where we take user-submitted layouts and offer suggestions on how to improve them, whether that's through realism or through flow or any other requested means. It's been quite a while since we've done our last episode. That was episode 6. So as a refresher, we're going to jump back and take a look at what Andrew put together for this submission. So we received a corkscrew coaster from Nighthawk 239, who asked us to offer some suggestions for smoothing it out and try and keep the dueling moment in place. Now, if you took a look at mine, which you can find the link to that down in the description of this video, I went kind of off to the side and sort of rebuilt the whole thing, keeping some dueling moments in there. Andrew stuck more towards the original design, and I think it was pretty successful here. Mostly just kind of smoothing out the overall shaping of things, making kind of the elements sort of flow more into each other. And really the key thing is keeping the dueling moments together. So right here that we're about to see as this one comes down the drop and out of the corkscrew, first we get that dueling moment there, and then we cross and get this racing moment with these two racing loops right here, which are just fantastic. So while it might not be, you know, a letter of the law arrow realism sort of thing, it has really that kind of nice in-game flow. Feels very kind of nostalgic for RCT to me. But I like this overall. Kind of an odd inversion order, 6 inversions in total. Definitely. You know, mixes of pacing, so some of the areas are faster than others, maybe a little slow through the corkscrews, but on the whole, I kind of like how this all sets up. I like this diagonal route through the one corkscrew there, kind of diving up underneath. I think that looks really nice. Certainly, these synchronized loops are just really, really nice overall, and the whole thing works pretty well. Nicely put together, you know, as Andrew's layouts all sort of go. I do really like the kind of textured landscaping. This little maintenance axis is pretty nice in here. I do like this little tiny viewing area underneath the loop, and then also the hints of further viewing areas over here by the drop, and then also in here. Coincidentally, too, jumping back to mine, I actually did just post a video of the stream archive of the actual build and theming of ours, which we ended up calling Bullet Point. So if you'd like to see that, you can also find that link down below in the description. Okay, but enough for episode 6. Let's jump on to today's episode 7. So why don't we take a look and see what was submitted. Today's submission comes to us from Nicholas, and is a very familiar, recognizable scenario, as I'm sure most all of you know, is Dynamite Dunes, one of the original RCT1 scenarios, with the pretty well famous Dynamite Blaster Mine Train coaster. But we're going to be asked to look at the wooden coaster today. So this coaster here, wooden roller coaster number 1, is what we've been tasked with taking a look at and offering some suggestions for. So this actually does pretty well to begin with, in my opinion, sitting up on the hillside. I always found this kind of row of dunes to be a challenge in this scenario, just to make things look good. And as we'll see when we get into my build, doing kind of more full-on realism style rides in scenario play always looks a little funky because they end up being so much kind of bigger, wider, stretched longer. So it's going to be a little bit different, you know, as far as the whole thing goes, but we're going to try and keep the same vibe. So we got this little start that kind of cuts underneath some of the structure. I have a lift hill that goes up behind this kind of cool tableau of Egyptian stuff. Nice little drop underneath the pathway here. I think this is my favorite bit, to be honest. This like double hill that's kind of raised up, so you get a lot of that good structure visible kind of down from the valley below, and you get kind of these nice little 2 pops of airtime connected with a little dip in the middle. So that's kind of neat. And then once we get into the rest of this here, we've got a couple of tunnels. We've got some kind of climbing and diving corners here and some things like that. So we're going to try and see if we can integrate it a little bit more smoothly in the second half here, build into the mountainside, and offer a little bit of theming. Now, prior to this one, I did go ahead and install my old copy of RCT1 so that I could have the original textures and all of that in place, because I just haven't done that lately. And I thought it would be good to have. I am going to still be building it in OpenRCT, So we're going to have block breaks, things like that, because I kind of don't like to go without those. But we're going to still keep this at least somewhat true to the original game as far as scenery building and everything else goes. So without further ado, let's get into the build. Alright, so let's take a look at our solution for this coaster and see what we're going to do for the new layout. What I'd like to do is keep this kind of general placement on the hillside, or kind of on top of the mountainside, I guess. I want to keep this direction of lift hill, turn, drop. I like this double hill, as we talked about earlier, and I do like how this passes underneath this climbing pathway, although I think I might want to bring down the pathway a little bit. I've never been a huge fan of when the pathway kind of continually goes up like this. Like, I like to put a landing maybe every 2 or so, but you know, personal preference again. But let's go ahead and start by getting rid of this, and then what I want to do actually is, at least to start here, let's remove all the guests so that I can come through here without causing total chaos, and pull out all of this theming paths, all that stuff. We're going to try not to modify the landscape super much. Certainly as much as we may need to for the ride itself. But we're actually going to start mid-ride, which is kind of how I like to do some of these things, especially when they're going to have like a feature drop. And I think the feature for me is going to be kind of coming through or down underneath of this this pathway right here. And I think what I want to do is like a double down drop. So let's kind of start back here and then go up. Now, this gives us a nice little backdrop behind this little Egyptian tableau, which I kind of like as well, just because we're going to use that to advantage. Kind of sits there nicely up above the water slide here, but I think we'll kind of take our look at that as well. So let's bring this down. Alright, that path is in the way. We'll get rid of that here a little later on, and we'll just have to readjust a lot of this pathway stuff. Okay, so for this one, I don't really want it to go through a tunnel so much as I want it to go through a, more or less a trench. Makes it a little easier to theme. I tend to avoid fully underground tunnels if I can, but not totally opposed to it. So we are going to extend the hills and all these, so not here because we're moving slowly, but here as we pull out, here because we're already going fast as we go down, and then again at the bottom, so it's just an extra thin or an extra shallow slope piece, so nothing too major. We are going to go ahead and come up, and then we'll flatten this one out without one, just to crest that a little bit more. We don't need to do a whole lot to it, but we'll do that, and then we're going to make our little double hill here. Now you'll notice I'm at 55 here. I'm going to stop it at 50 here, only because it gives us a little bit of, you know, speed consistency, because we're going to lose some speed over time as we go forward. So let's level this out, which actually comes right on the ground here, which is good for what I'm looking for. So we're going to do the same thing with a shallow pullout or an elongated pullout, I guess, and then kind of make this flat up here. Now for cornering, I kind of want to do this more at a CCI style, sort of underbanked cornering. So we're going to do this flat. So we won't be going very fast here at this point, but we'll come here, and then we're going to use the actual slope of the hillside kind of as our kind of drops. We can kind of follow it along with this curve. I don't tend to, if I'm building my own parks, I don't really ever have slopes like this where it's just constantly sloped, but that's pretty much how all the scenario maps are. So just something you got to work with, which is not too much of a problem, but kind of wrap ourselves around the hillside here, and then we want this to be sort of a multiple out and back. We'll kind of call it a double out and back, I guess. We're going to come up alongside here. None of these corners are crazy big that we're going to have any kind of stat penalty issues, I don't think, as far as just them not doing what they're supposed to. But let's go up to, I'm going to drop it a little bit, because what I want to do is get ourselves aligned here so that this trench drop is aligned. So by doing this, we can then go through and do a nice shallow pullout or elongated pullout. And now these run side by side, which I just think looks nice sometimes. And that also lets us here now, if we want to get through this and we want to like move this over, for example, it lets us do that. So we can then come across just like this and come down and then come across. Now we're going to have to get rid of this guy here at some point so we can continue that lift down, but more to come on that. Okay, so coming up on the other side, I'm actually going to do an elongated pullout on this one. Not because it needs it force-wise, but just because I want to kind of continue this same look across, and if I were to pull it out earlier, it's going to look, I mean, it's fine, but it just, I don't know, I kind of like this look. And then we're going to diverge it out and go this way. We could go across under and go the other way. The considerations here, I would say, are we don't want to spoil this, and for this one we're turning right, for this one we're turning left. We want a nice variety of cornering. We're going to do the same thing though, but basically mirror it. So we'll kind of drop this down, come across, and then we'll go here, and it looks like we're going to run into this topspin. So unfortunately we're going to say see you later topspin. We can always put that back later if we want to. I'm also going to get rid of these paths for right now because they're the way as is this. Okay. We can kind of come back up, or that's gonna run into our lift hill, but we can go deep, I think. Yeah, we're clear. And that actually works really well there. You can see this bit here if I turn off the weight markers. Oh, where's the shortcut for that? One of these shortcuts. I guess I gotta get out of the coaster builder, but this happens to glitch in OpenRCT, but if we swap the tracks on that tile, that goes away. So we don't have to worry about it too much. Okay. Let's do this kind of one final drop here back into the valley, and then we're gonna come up out of it. Now, this was kind of former station queue stuff of the original build as we received it. I kind of envision this as the queue, sort of like an archaeological dig site maybe, with like little tunnels and stuff like that. So I kind of want to keep that. I was considering initially here taking the lift hill and just sort of bringing it straight across here and then putting the station here. But I kind of almost want this whole little strip here looking over the dynamite blaster and then also this coaster to be the lift hill. So in order to bring in our little pre-lift section that I said we liked, let's cross over. And that'll put it to this side. And actually, this is going to help us accentuate this structure here a little bit. So the idea is our station's going to sit underneath of it somehow. We'll probably just raise the land to some level here, and then the coaster is going to kind of seem like it goes up and over the station. I think that could be a nice option. We'll do 5 pieces of station track, and then come on with block breaks, 4 more, and then we are here and there. So I think I kind of like to stop the train further up and kind of do this sort of CCI brake run where it has an initial brake up above, and then it kind of drops down and into the final brakes. Now the reason they did that was to reduce the overall wear and tear on the brake fins. So if you stop it higher up where the ride's moving slower, it's going to do less damage overall over time. So it's just a maintenance and upkeep thing. So why don't we try and keep this down, and we'll actually just kind of terraform this, so we can probably put the transfer track right here, but we can probably put a couple more brakes in here, and then let's just extend it so we can get underneath of this curve. And then this could be a tunnel here later. I noticed what we didn't do on any of this is tunnels, and the original one had quite a few tunnels. I don't typically like to do underground tunnels, only because they're typically very expensive in real life, so you don't see them very often, but not to say that we couldn't do something small. So this may be a tunnel in our final look. And then the other thing that I don't typically like to do is S-bends. In fact, I will say never use S-bends typically when I'm talking through this, but this is in between sort of the brake run and another brake run, so I can kind of see it as far as the overall goes, because you can kind of expect this as just sort of a little sweeping corner all the way around, and it's continuous along. The big thing about S-bends is they don't often come across as continuous, so you generally want like a corner into or out of it, so at least it looks like it's going someplace. So let's do that, and then we'll put some here, and then do one freebie there as we come up. So that's not too bad. So we're gonna hug the terrain, which is what we did. We kind of fit it in the overall, kept our lift, kept our turn, kept our drop, and kind of enhanced it with that double drop. And then we still have this cool kind of double up deal here. All right, so we're gonna go with PTC trains. Even though we've got another block break, this can only really run 2 trains. There's no real need for any more than that. 6 cars is pretty well standard for PTC. Let's have to see here later if I can get a queue underneath of there. I think I might be able to, but either way, just mark that for now. Let's test this out, see how it does. Make sure it makes all of our stuff and works well. We should probably go ahead and fix this while we're at it. Down over. Alright, let's see. 25 over top. Alright, none of that's too fast, which is great. That works really well. 20 miles an hour is working fine. Good for the diagonals. Curious what it's going to hit here. This is the... We're actually 21. That's not bad. That was one of the larger concerns that I had. And then we'll hit the brakes at 20 miles an hour. It was not bad. And the blocks will slow it down. Putting this block up early means we'll be able to get this guy off the lift hill faster, which is going to be fine when it's operating like normal. Anyway, so alright, let's go ahead and put this pathway back. So now we've got the pathway here. We'll probably want to just do some terraforming to pull this down, open it up just a little bit, and kind of make it look a little nicer there. We can clean up a lot of this, clean up some of these tunnel holes from the original layout, but on the whole, I think this one works all right. Hopefully, you guys like it. But that's our build. Let's jump forward here real quick and take a look after I added a queue and a little bit of theming to it for our finished product. So here we are with our finished and themed layout. So we've already kind of watched the build through of the layout. Now, theming wise, I wanted to try and bring back some of those tunnels and near misses that we didn't really incorporate, that were more in the original design of the ride. So I did add a little bit of a tunnel here at the end of the ride for the brakes, so we kind of go through there. Just helps with the overall massing of the landscape around. I'm trying to carry this Egyptian theme through. We've got our kind of front plaza here in through this. I kind of envisioned it as more of like an archaeological site as you go over to the station itself. Built these kind of walls with some overhangs, some things like that, a little bit of light, sparse landscaping, things like that. We do have the bridge across the front, so we did share those drops on purpose, so we can have that bridge of pathway go across. And then on the exit side, I wanted to have something kind of more grand station-wise here, so I tried to build this quasi-Egyptian temple, I suppose. So this is just the exit here. Might be a little confusing to park guests, perhaps, knowing that you got to go around the other side, but I did want that sort of station presence of some kind, but kind of have 2 different sides going on here. Now, I did add a transfer track on this side, so this whole bit of track would slide over into our maintenance area here, so nothing too crazy as far as that goes, but I just wanted to make sure that I added those little details there. Bits of fencing and things like that all around kind of complete the overall look, but for the most part, that's the overall thing. It's integrated pretty well. Like I said in the intro, when you're building realistic coasters in scenario play, especially if you have existing pre-built coasters, it's going to look a little funky because the ride is going to be kind of so stretched out and kind of longer in general. I mean, we look at this one that's how much longer, 3 times this kind of footprint of the mine train coaster, but probably doing less, I would say, and it's a little less kind of peppy moving through the overall space. So it's a little bit different, but that's nothing wrong with that. Certainly there's different styles to play in different ways, but I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. I think it manages to hold on the hillside pretty well without looking like we totally destroyed the hillside for it. And overall, I think it works pretty all right. So anyway, that is all for today. Next go around, we'll take a look at what Andrew put together, although you can certainly check out his channel to see his video live. And if you'd like to submit a layout for our consideration, please send it to fixmycoasterlayout@gmail.com. We can accept RCT1 files, either SV4 or TD4, or RCT2 files, SV6 or TD6, or the new .park file for the OpenRCT new save format. Whether it's a track file or a park file, we're happy to look at it, and all we ask is you tell us your name, tell us what you want to be called in the video, and then offer any comments or advice about what you're looking for us to take a look at as far as adjusting realism, adjusting flow, or whatsoever. So as always, we do appreciate your submissions. We are slowly working through the backlog. Certainly the long pause didn't help things, but we're going to hopefully get these out a little more frequently here moving forward. We do appreciate all the submissions here that we've had so far, and look forward to any new ones coming along the way. So, with all that said, until next time, thank you all very much for watching, and we will catch you in the next one. Bye now.